Okay, today we are going to solve equations, and I'm going to make this really easy. First of all, if there's an equal sign, if it's an equation, that means it's just like a teeter-totter or a balanced scale where both sides of that equation are exactly the same. And if you think about a scale or anything that balances, if you add something to one side and you add the same amount to the other side, it stays balanced. Or if you take something off of one side and you take the same amount off the other side, it's still going to stay balanced. So when we have a balanced mathematical expression with an equal sign, as long as we do the same thing to both sides, we're really not changing we're not taking anything out of balance, we're not changing any values, okay? So two rules for solving an equation. Number one is you always have to do the opposite. If it says plus, we're going to subtract. If it says multiply, we're going to divide. We're always going to do the opposite. And we have to do the same thing on both sides. Let's get started with this. All right, what I'm always going to do, you're always going to see me draw a line right down through the equal sign. It just helps me understand that we've got two different sides of this that are balanced. And now I'm looking at the x plus 6, and what I need to do is I need to isolate that x. I need to get the x all by itself, which means I need to make that plus 6 disappear. Well, I make it disappear by doing the opposite. What's the opposite of adding 6? I'm going to be subtracting. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take minus 6, and I'm going to do that on both sides of the equation, all right? Because if I do it on both sides, it's going to stay balanced. So positive 6, negative 6, that's 0. And on the left side, all I have is an x. On the right side, 17 minus 6 is going to be 11. So I've solved it. I've solved for x. X is equal to 11. Let's do the next one. All right, this time I'm looking at the right side because that's where my x is, and I want that x to be alone. So how do I get rid of that negative 13? Well, the opposite of negative 13 or minus 13 is going to be a plus 13. So I'm just going to do that to both sides. All right, now you also see that I have another phrase written down there, cross the line, change the sign. A lot of times that's really going to help us think about this. Algebraically, what we have to do is we have to do the opposite on both sides, the same thing on both sides. But really, all we're doing is kind of crossing the line, changing the sign. We can also think about this problem, what we just did here, as taking this minus 13 and taking it over to the other side. And as soon as it crosses that line, it becomes a positive 13 over here. Okay, so however you want to think about it is, it's okay. All right, so on the right side, minus 13 plus 13, that's gone, that's 0. And all we have left is x. And on the left side, we have 25. Okay? Let's think about it as cross the line, change the sign this time. Okay? So looking at the left side, I've got 5 times x equals 35. Well, how do I get rid of that 5? Do the opposite. What's the opposite of times? Divide. So I'm going to take the 5 and I'm going to divide it to the other side. And I'm just going to all I have left on the left is x. And on the right, 35 divided by 5 is going to be 7. Let's look at the next one. The next one says x divided by 8 equals 7. Well, if I want that x to be alone, I have to move the 8. What's the opposite of divide by 8? Multiply. So let's just take the 8 and let's multiply it to the other side. Multiply the 8 over there, and I'm just going to get x equals 7 times 8 is going to be 56. All right? That's all we got there. Now, what happens if it gets a little bit more complicated? Well, no problem, still the same rules. Looking at the left side, I want to solve that for x. How am I going to do that? Well, got to get rid of the 3 and the negative 4, okay? Technically, here's what we're doing. We have to do the opposite of the order of operations, okay? Just kind of see the pattern, though. That's kind of confusing to think about. We've got to get rid of that minus 4 first, all right? So let's take this minus 4 and let's add it to the other side. Plus 4. Cross the line, change the sign from a minus 4 to a plus 4. So now on the left, all I have is 3x. 15 plus 4 is going to be 19. Now let's look at the left again. How do I get rid of that 3? Well, that's 3 times x. So what's the opposite of times? We're going to have to divide it to the other side. Divide by 3. And this isn't going to come out to a nice, neat integer, so we're just going to keep it as this improper fraction and say that our answer is 19 over 3. Let's look at the next one. All right, next one. This one does look more complicated, but all we have to do, get rid of the 7 first because it's kind of away from the x. So it's a plus 7. So let's cross the line, change the sign, change it from a positive 7 to a negative 7, subtract it over. On the left, all we have is x over 4. And on the right, 5 minus 7 is going to be negative 2. All right, now what does x over 4 mean? That means x divided by 4. So to get rid of that divided by 4, do the opposite. Opposite of divide is multiply, so let's multiply the 4 to the other side. Bring it over here and multiply by 4. And on the left, all we have is x. And on the right, negative 2 times 4 is going to be negative 8. All right, so that's all we've got, I believe. Oh, no, you know what? We've got a couple more. Let's do a couple more real quick. Solve it for x. Subtract the 3 over. Cross the line, change the sign from a positive 3 to a negative 3. So we've got 7x. 27 minus 3 is going to be 24. One more step. That's 7 times x, so the opposite of times. In order to get rid of that 7, let's divide that 7 over to the other side. X equals 24 over 7. And last one, for sure this time, let's subtract the 4 over. So 15 minus 4 is 11. And we have x divided by 3. Now how do I get rid of that divided by 3? All we have to do is multiply it over. Cross the line, change it from a divide to a times. Multiply the 3 over. 3 times 11 is going to be 33 is equal to x. All right, good luck.